but these guys are already set up. So Silent, if you're ready, chat, if you guys are ready, let's head right over to our grand finals for today.
And this is going to be interesting. Now, again, we've seen these competitors in the past, whether it has been in this tournament or others as well. These guys are not so hidden in this realm of online Riftbound. And so they have made it here. Their skills have been shown and the battlefields revealed with Dreaming Tree and Reaver's Row. Very interesting choices as we go into this game number 1.
Yeah, most likely the ideal turn 1, or not turn 1, but game 1 battlefields for both of these players. Dreaming Tree, you can't go wrong. Luckily, or unluckily rather, Kaisa tends to benefit sometimes from Dreaming Tree, and Ahri on their hand doesn't seem to benefit too much from Reaver's Row. The game plan for Ahri is get onto the battlefield and pretty much never leave. You want to hold it down. Reaver's Row is a location where you tend more often than not want to recall and retreat your units back to base. So it seems, just based off the battlefield, it tends to lean a little Kaisa, but of course these guys are just getting started. The higher seed decides. I believe that is Kaisa in this case. Oh, forgive me, it looks like PewQ. Oh no, I think they didn't read the rules, or I forget who was on the top seed. These guys, oh no, it is Kaisa. So Kaisa does indeed go first.
Yeah, and this is going to be the big part, because especially if you find yourself taking Reaver's Row as the RE player, you got to be so worried about the spells that can target your unit and destroy them. So before you even have a chance to back out, you're going to be able to go ahead and get things going. But still, Ahri is already ramping up with the Find Your Center, being able to add a rune and draw a card. And so it'll be interesting to see how this is going to be able to respond as we see the Kaisa taking Reaver's Row and gaining the first point in this finals match.
That is right. 1 point going in the way of Ahri. Decides to bring out the champion already from the zone, putting it onto the base, setting up the potential draw one onto something like the Dreaming Tree. We know Ahri isn't going to be playing anything onto the base, doesn't have anything to accelerate nice and early on her turn 2, so most likely just going to get off a unit here. Goes for 4, recycles 1, and I stand corrected. Of course, the Sprite Mother, how can I forget, going into this, using the Sprite token, taking over the Dreaming Tree, getting 1 on their board herself. 4 is of course bigger than 3. 2 runes available to Ahri, so something like the Discipline is online. You always have to be careful when you go against Ahri.
And that's the big thing, and you'll see Bamboopanda probably attacking it more often than not with a full array of runes at the ready to be able to respond as needed. Now, of course, if there is no response that the Ahri is playing, that is going to be 1, very telling to Bamboopanda, and 2, also meaning that you can use all 6 runes this turn to go ahead and continue to respond to your opponent's board state. So you got to be so careful, because again, it's going to almost be who is going to be running out of resources first, who's going to be running out of answers first here. And you got to be ever more careful about not only that, oh, there's a Hextech Ray, but you got to be so careful about the end game of where Ahri is probably running the Time Warp in their deck from the get-go, whereas Kaisa puts it in on the side deck.
That is so true. So instead of a Defy to counteract this Hex Ray, going to go for Discipline, bring that up to 5. 5 is definitely enough to hold it down. It won't hold it down forever, but it could trade evenly with this Kaisa. So just 3 damage, but I don't think that's the final spell Kaisa will deploy in this turn. Maybe another Ray, maybe another Void Seeker, just to close it out, because you want to prioritize getting that draw. Oh, and that was a draw too for Ahri, the Dreaming Tree one and the Discipline one. So keeping that hand size, as you said, it's a game of who can hold on to the majority of the resources or keep recycling the resources with that net value. So Ahri pulling out is slightly ahead in terms of that, but of course Kaisa tends to do that in the end game, or as the game continues. Now has to think about how are they dealing with this token now that it has 5 might.
And it's like, yeah, sure, your opponent's not going to be scoring off of it, but there's another Hextech Ray coming out. That is going to be enough to at least, deal the damage and remove it from the board. And then Kaisa is going to be able to go in and take this. And that is going to be devastating as well, just because of the drawing of the card, of the Conquer ability of that Kaisa. And so this is going to be tough. And this is the thing. This is the battle of two giants here that we are seeing. Both of these competitors have decks that are able to draw so many cards. And that makes it so difficult to calculate what even you as your opponent, or what your opponent is able to do to you on your turn.
Yeah, well said. And I don't know about you guys, but drawing cards is pretty much my favorite thing to do in trading card games. You can never go wrong with more cards in your hand. Now, Ahri decided to deploy that Sprite Mother, backing it up with the Discipline, bringing it up to 5 versus the 4. Ahri has 4 runes to work with. What does she have in mind? Something like a Stupefy could cause a trade, neglecting the Conquer for Ahri. Does she have it, or... Okay, goes for 2 instead. It's even better, the smokescreen. So keeping Kaisa alive, unless there's that. There it is. Silent Defy.
I mean, at least you know Bamboopanda got to hit the minus on the Sprite Mother. That probably felt good for a second. But here we go with a Stupefy coming out. That is still only going to make it 4-4 though, and that is still a lot of runes left for the PewQ to be able to use here as the Ahri player. It looks like is going to be tapping one and playing a Stupefy in response on the Kaisa as well. Again, both competitors drawing cards off of those Stupefies, refilling the hands as cards are played. And man, this is going to be intense. And so we see both competitors holding one battlefield as the turn soon will be passed back to the Kaisa.
Yeah, and these two legends are pretty much the legends that have the most spells, or the most combat tricks rather, going back and forth. I Stupefy, you Stupefy, I Smokescreen, just back to back and back and back. So let's see, as you said, Ravenbloom does hold, so able to get Kaisa 3 points. Now, does she have an accelerated unit or something like a Darius to challenge the Dreaming Tree? So goes up to 3, or did I mistake this? Is that a 4? How did it get 4? Oh, did I not count the Kaisa Conquer? I might have not counted that.
Oh, maybe not. Yeah.
So it does have 4, halfway to already closing things out for game number 1 of this series. But Ahri, no slouch indeed. We've seen PewQ do wonderful things throughout the tournament. Can he keep that momentum going? He finds himself in the grand finals, so he doesn't want to go out too soon. Has a game plan, but unfortunately just has 1 rune available to do any kind of shenanigans for on Kaisa's turn. So let's see. It might be a Darius.
Yep, there you go. Great call there. And is the Cleave gonna now be coming out? Nope, a Stupefy. Why not?
Why not? Cleave, Stupefy, they're all coming out for just a single energy, readying the Darius, getting +7, and with just 1 rune, a On Guard won't be enough. You go up to 5, Stupefy, or mistaken, go up to 4, but still gonna do it. Instead, goes for the retreat. I like this play. You get to play the Sprite Mother 1 more time, and Ravenbloom probably gets scared away on that Reven's Row, allowing you to conquer 1 more time. So I think that was a decent play from Ahri.
Yes, that was a great play there. Honestly, I think Retreat is one of the best cards in this game. The fact that it costs 1 to retreat 1 back, channel a card as well, or channel a rune as well, that is so good here. And again, one of the scariest things as Kaisa players is to pass over to your opponent and having no runes to be able to use. This is a wide open turn here for PewQ as the Ahri player, and this is going to be very interesting to see how this is done. The points have already started to be scored, and are we seeing now the Thousand Tail? Oh nope, instead the Fey Folk that is accelerated and taking out the Darius.
There we go. I thought it was Watcher as well, but he ended up recycling a Calm Rune, so it was indeed the accelerated Fey Folk, enough to get over that 5 might on the Darius. So not too bad. Now in full control of the battlefields, as we said at the top of the game, Ahri benefits from controlling all the battlefields. She just wants to stay there as long as possible. Ravenbloom or any unit that comes in will be at -1 total might. So this does favor her, because Faithful, nothing to slouch at. 6 total might kind of tends to be a little hard to get over. Already used 2 Hex Tech Rays, so you can't do double of those to take it down. You're forced to do something like a Falling Star just for a single unit. I'm not quite sure if that's even worth it.
No, I don't think it necessarily would be at this point. And this is where it comes down to calculating. You have 5 cards in hand, you have 7 runes. You still want to have that stuff lingering a little bit. So here we go with playing chicken here, because before anything else does necessarily get activated, the battlefield activates as a whole and says, do you wish to retreat? And this is where the debate goes in, because a full array of runes on the Kaisa side and one Ravenbloom student standing between the Kaisa and a point.
Yeah, I would imagine there's like a 99% chance, as we're seeing here, they have something in mind. Going to be deploying this cleave, bringing it up to 6, the 3 from the cleave, the 1 from the Ravenbloom, -1 from the Ahri ability. People always tend to forget, people including myself. So Ravenbloom enough. So let's see if there's a on guard. That's going to be an even trade, but defies the cleave. 2 defies down, only 1 more left in the deck. We've yet to see Ahri play any other counters like Wind Wall, but oh, you defy one, you can't defy the other. That might have been the last one in their hand, the other one most likely remaining in the deck. So Void Seeker enough, and that does bring Kaisa all the way to 6, and that is a number Kaisa loves to see. Just 2 more even points away from getting that game number 1. Things with so many options to them, like a Watcher, like a Darius, it's so easy to conquer points for Kaisa.
Yeah, and even with this turn pass, I mean, you're seeing the runes that, you know, Ahri has as a whole, but still, Kaisa thrives on the accelerated units, getting right back into this game, being able to respond with whatever your opponent throws at you. Likewise, though, the Ahri struggles with that, where you do almost have to build up your base a little bit, and then on the following turn, go ahead and start attacking into the bases. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this Ahri is going to be able to get into this game and what might be happening here. But this is a big turn for the Ahri. If you are unable to really get control of this turn, this game is all but over.
Yeah, I believe so. So starting things off, paying 4 energy, recycling 1. Is that going to be the Ahri champ onto the Dreaming Tree? Instead, it's going to be the Sprite Mother getting 1 unit accelerated, a challenge in that Reaver's Row, making that Ravenbloom retreat back to base, gaining up to 5. So closing the gap, 5 to 6. Or wait a second, what did I miss here? I think Ahri's at 6 now. I got the 1 for holding, 1 now for the Conqueror of the Sprite Mother. There might have been 1 I missed. Forgive me, guys. But 6 to 6, so tying things up. Both of these players pretty much 2 points away from closing it out. Still has a couple cards to work with, so going to be deploying the Watchful Sentry onto the Reaver's Row, but it doesn't add that much more protection. Just 1 more might. I think that's more about cantripping and drawing 1 more card, having more options available on that following turn. So he's probably counting on Watchful Stain. Oh, I mean, it doesn't make sense to retreat a temporary, so I think he's just looking for the draw for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right about that as well. And so this was one thing that I was worried about, was did Kaisa go ahead and have the Thousand Tail Watcher, but doesn't look like you do in this case. Still 3 runes at the ready as the Ahri player. That is scary with 5 cards in hand. A Hextech Ray coming out. That will be dealing 3 damage to a chosen unit, upping the might of both units, the Darius and the Ravenbloom student. That is going to be scary, but at the same time, another Defy, the 3rd one coming out to shut down the Hextech Ray and stopping the Darius from readying up.
Yeah, 3 Defies. As early, I mean, it's not too early. We're right in the middle of the game, so I guess it's not too likely to see 3 Defies in a single game, but Ahri had all 3 and the perfect timing. And interesting enough, because it's not Legion, I think it does work for Legion, right? Even if you get countered, it still counts as play, or is it just different for Darius?
No, because it technically doesn't have the card be played. It defies it. And so because of that, it does not count as a second card. And so another card needs to then be played, which in this case is the...
Void Seeker, you got it.
Void Seeker, thank you. You know, and that would then re-ready up the Darius, because it does now count as the second card.
Exactly, and Darius does have 7 might. Interesting enough, going to be doing the Stupefy on the Ravenbloom, trying to not let Kaisa conquer any more battlefields, gaining any more points. But now, I have a feeling Ahri with a single rune left, can that be the... I mean, we saw 3 defies. I wouldn't doubt having another stupefy, bringing that Darius down to 5 might with the Ahri ability and the stupefy. That would be exactly what Ahri needs to go up to 7. And then if they have Watcher, or might not even need Watcher, Kaisa's completely tapped out. The Sprite Mother, if they can hold the Dreaming Tree right here, right now, the Sprite Mother should be more than enough to go into Reaver's Row and conquer.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Unguard also might even be a good choice as well. That would add +2 in this case. So it looks like the Darius is going to be playing it safe, moving over to Reaver's Row to gain that point and fight another day. But still, again, a tapped out Kaisa. 9 runes at the ready for this Ahri with 6 cards in hand. And there we go with the Thousand Tail Watcher securing game number 1 for Ahri.
Both of these players have their 4 starting cards, and I'm pretty sure Kaisa will decide to go first once again.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be the biggest deciding factor, is Ahri having 3 defies changed the game so much. If Ahri is unable to find those defies for this game, is that going to be such a difference maker? Right there, though, there is not a turn 1 play for Kaisa. That could hurt already in the beginning, because now you're saying, well, both battlefields are now wide open, and now you're going to be tapped out as well, playing the Kaisa out to the board.
Yeah, a little bit unlucky. So luck not favoring Kaisa this early game. Raven Blue on the other side, though, looking primed to just conquer any of these battlefields. Of course, as Ahri, you're really eyeing that Targon's Peak. Find your center, gonna be recycling 1, drawing 1. Never a bad play. One of the best green cards I feel like recently came into the limelight, right? A lot of players didn't really value Find Your Center until perhaps Master Yi Ramp started running it, or Ramp Master Yi. So yeah, Raven Bloom does go into Targon's Peak, rating 2 runes at the end of your turn. So 4 runes total to work with on that Kaisa turn. This is looking good for Ahri.
This is looking really good for Ahri, and right now Bamboopanda needs to be able to start finding these answers, because 4 runes at the ready is devastating to have to go against. So it looks like we are going to be trying to conquer here and seeing what could happen. Likewise, though, I don't know if this Ahri is running Charm, but we haven't seen that at all in game 1. And that could also be a very big difference maker to control this board state and really, throw it right back to Bamboopanda as he tries to get back into this game as the Ahri player, or as the Kaisa player.
Yeah, we'll see what they have in mind. So going for, okay, tap in all. So that's going to be 3 total 2-cost unit. 2 of them being the Noxious Hopeful. That's such a powerhouse of a card. 4 might for just 2 energy. You can never go wrong. That's a lot of might on the follow-up turn after this Ahri turn. There's no such thing as backline kills, and I say that, but of course there's things like Singularity, but I don't think this Ahri's running anything like that. Gonna be exhausting all the runes. Tasty Faithful with the accelerated ability coming in 6-4. Gonna be taking Start Tip Peak. I almost said Start Tip Valley, but that will be 3 because of the hold from Raven.
And I mean, this is exactly what you want to do as the Ahri player. Yes, that was a great turn from Bamboopanda, being able to get so many units, especially out for just 6 might. But still, this is already hitting the ground running, finding some great answers to get things moving. But still, you're giving it now over to the Kaisa to be able to see what they can do with 8 runes to be utilized here. And it's like, well, let's see.
Yeah, let's see indeed. Kaisa thinking deeply, thinking about what can they do. I mean, they have 3 units in their base. Of course, one of them can go freely into Targon's Peak. Ahri's now the one that's completely tapped out, starting with perhaps a Falling Star, and that's exactly what they have in mind. Just having to recycle 1, going for both, so doing 3 damage on the Faithfolk. That way the Raven Bloom could just simply trade, unless of course you have something like the Cleave, send one of the Noxious to Targon, send the Raven Bloom or the other Hopeful into Tasty. So yeah, this is actually looking pretty good. I think the fact that Ahri's completely tapped out really affecting them, not able to have anything like an On Guard to protect any of her units.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. But again, destroying a tasty Faithful never feels good. Because especially just for the dying ability, you're going to be able to utilize 2, you're going to be able to draw a card, and that, never feels good giving your opponent that. So it looks like a Void Seeker is going to be going in and being able to destroy that. Now, of course, you are still going to draw the card and activate that. And the battlefields are Kaisa's for the taking. And so we'll see how that ends up going. But still, that was a lot of utility needed to be able to take care of one unit.
Yeah, exactly right. So many resources expended there on that turn, but it was necessary. Look at the position Kaisa has put herself in. She has the back line, she has the control of these battlefields, and Targon's Peak readying those 2 runes, so has the counterplay ability with some combat tricks. Kaisa now looking primed to really hold the ground and possibly keep this momentum going and potentially close things out and leading us to a potential game 3. So things are looking good, but Ahri has so many runes to work with. What can she possibly do this turn?
Well, and that's again the thing, because it's like, do you really want to just go ahead and use this turn to rebuild your board state? It's like, yes, if I do though, that is giving my opponent 2 additional points, and so at least the Yordle will be able to then at least draw a card, but you're still finding yourself at, I need to somehow get or stop my opponent from being able to score 2 points.
An interesting decision, decided to bring out the champion Ahri onto the base, so honestly didn't accomplish too much on the turn. I think this is more of a defensive type play, leaving 3 runes ready, or honestly I don't think Ahri had too many options available to her. I almost thought maybe something like a Watcher, but could be a bit premature. Passing it back over to Kaisa, and of course 2 battlefields under Kaisa's control going to be earning her all the way up to 5 points already. So things are looking up and up for Kaisa so far.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, and it'll be very interesting to see how Ahri is going to be able to respond here. Still though, there are 9 runes to be used. That is not easy to do. You see 3 that are being tapped. The Yordle is going to be used to reinforce the top battlefield, and that battlefield is such a great one as well, because every time that you hold, you are able to channel the rune during your upkeep. And that can be very big, especially where Time Warp very well might be in Bamboopanda's hand.
Yeah, we've seen Time Warp do some crazy things on both of these legends, but of course Ahri able to make bigger use because she's the one ramping with Find Your Center. So we've seen things like Time Warp with the follow-up Watcher, but this is still not a good position for Ahri. They need to take down both battlefields, because if they don't, actually not yet, right? Because you're at 5, so you're not in that even range where you're worried about going from 6 to 8. But okay, Kaisa going to be playing the whole game. I think that's a good line to play against things like Ahri, against Master Yi. You want to hold the battlefield rather than the other way around, where Ahri's the one in control of those battlefields. So I think this is good.
But at the same time, you look and you're like, well, there's 4 there. There's 2, 2, 2. Okay, cool. Well... And that can be something very easy, especially with Ahri having all 12 runes at the ready. And so you got to be careful, because it's like, even if you go ahead and play a Thousand Tail Watcher, for example, minusing 3, taking both battlefields, you're still going to have 4 runes left over at the ready to be used. And so it looks like right here, a Discipline is going to be activated, giving +2 to Ahri. And there could be a very big move coming in right here.
Yeah, I'm smelling a double Discipline, or perhaps even an On Guard, bringing that Ahri up to an 8, sending her into the Star Tip location. I keep saying location just because I played Lorcana for a couple years, but I got to engrave it in my brain. Battlefields, of course. So Ahri already at that 6 might, of course, could keep it simple, send it into Noxious Hopeful direction. 6 is definitely enough to take it down, but Ahri, or apologies, Kaisa has 3 runes you always have to consider. There's always that counterplay ability. We saw the Void Seeker early on. We saw those Hex Rays the other game. Could be something Ahri has to keep in mind, but of course what we also saw in game 1 was 3 Defies back to back, not literally back to back, but 3 Defies in general. That's something now Kaisa has to consider as well, but it looks like maybe a Tasty or a Watcher It is a watcher, but doesn't decide to accelerate it. Just going to keep it simple and -3 on every single unit on the board, on Kaisa's board.
And that's going to be interesting as well, because again, like you pointed out, there are still the 3 runes at the ready for the Kaisa. That can be devastating. You're giving the risk here as well with sending the Ahri in first. But again, that can also bait out one of the biggest threats first. So it looks like a Stupefy is going to be coming down. That'll be -1 and also giving a card to the Kaisa here. And also pumping up the Raven.
Yeah, and he has another one that could even things out, or actually doesn't even things out. A smoke screen, bringing that Ahri, but we said it before, Defy. I will say Defy number 1, because you know there's always another one down the road.
Yep, and that's the thing too, because it was defied, the Ravenbloom student does not get buffed. Ahri fights another day, and there are 2 runes left to be able to be used during Kaisa's turn. But still, again, this is going to be scary. That's going to be 11 runes that Kaisa is going to be able to use to follow up with. And already with the points being even here, this could be very different.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The points are even 5-5, but now the battlefield control is on the other side. Ahri in control, and if they're able to hold it down with this champion Ahri, that's 2 points. 1 for the hold, 1 for her ability, but you know, not too likely. 2 runes. Actually, you get 2 more back, so 4 runes total. Maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance. We saw 1 discipline already used. Perhaps an on guard, like I keep saying. Perhaps another discipline. So there could be a chance that you're able to protect this Ahri. But it looks like Kaisa, with a watcher in mind, going to be recycling 2 and indeed going to accelerate it. So there is a very slim chance this Ahri is staying on the board.
So you're telling me there's a chance. But then again, you could still go ahead and use the retreat as well to save the Ahri in this case. Not only that, though, there is a good chance that they have another Thousand Tail Watcher in hand as the Ahri player. You're seeing 6 cards in hand, and that's maybe why I would be considering playing the Thousand Tail Watcher without being accelerated as the Ahri player, is because on the following turn, I want to be able to go ahead and attack with 2 7-might units out into the battlefields. And so it's going to be really interesting because Ahri has a very big choice here to make as well. That is 1-7. And still, even after all that, 3 runes that Bamboopanda can use to further respond to this attack.
Yeah, we'll see. 4 runes and doesn't get enough off because 7's just a little bit too high, getting all the way from 1, of course. So Kaisa will conquer, going up to 6 now. So now that nice and even number for Kaisa. 6 is where you want to be. You're able to potentially get to 7 here, maybe send the Noxious. But now 1-4 isn't too much of a discrepancy. So you could get that done with something like a Discipline, something like an On Guard. Something like, you know, Ahri doesn't tend to run smokescreen of their own, right? I think, actually, I forgot the Ahri ability. Discipline itself will be enough to at least trade evenly.
Yeah, the Ahri ability is such a good ability, and that's why I think Ahri was also slept on for so long, because you go ahead and see it, and you're like, -1 might? Who cares? But man, it can be such a difference maker, especially with these big attacks that we're seeing right now, especially as Yordle is fighting for his life and still even 1 rune at the ready still.
Yeah, and these guys are going back and forth, as we said before. These 2 legends are probably the most legends with the amount of spells they can deploy on each and every turn, whether it's your turn or your opponent's turn. And another On Guard going up to 7 that Noxious Hopeful had a whopping 6. I say whopping, but it wasn't too crazy, but enough to what he thought was enough for the Yordle, but bringing it up to 7 with the On Guard, holding it down. So Ahri will go up to 6 the following turn, and then Kaisa wasn't able to conquer Targar's Peak, so they're just going to be able to use 2 runes on that following turn, or the following Ahri turn. So that's not very much. Perhaps just 2 for something like a Smokescreen. Could do something, but still not looking too good. She's deciding to just hold it down. Hold down that star tip. Oh, and plays a Watchful, so completely tapped out. This might not be too bad for Ahri.
Nope, this is exactly what Ahri needs right now. One card in hand for Kaisa. You were able to outlast everything that Kaisa was throwing, and now you see, okay, cool. Well, there's 10 there. If I go ahead and play my Watcher, if I have one, you know, that's a GG here. Not only that, too, 12 runes at the ready. There are so many options here, but you got to still be careful. But even still, a tapped out Kaisa, and you're already minusing 1 right there for a Stupefied, trying to maybe get that additional answer. You're not really wasting a lot with the cost of 1 rune. Again, another Stupefied, digging for the answer here.
Yeah.
And could be.
What do you think Ahri's digging for? Perhaps something like a Watcher, right? That would be really tough to deal with for Kaisa.
Watcher or Time Warp, I think, are the two that you are really digging for right here, because that even just Time Warp could be enough to even just give you that additional turn, that additional card on top of that, to try to get back into this, or, you know, to try to really secure this win here. And so I'm curious to see where this will go.
Yeah, you're so right. A Time Warp here will get 7 points from the Yordle hold, and then you have a whole nother turn, 1 extra draw, something like a Watcher on that second turn you take. That would close it out. You have a Watcher on base, you have a Watcher when you play it from hand, and Kaisa, as we keep saying, she's tapped out. The third Stupefied coming out. That's 3 card draws. You have to find something good here, but I don't think you can play Time Warp now, right? 2, 4.
No.
Or yeah, you can.
Yeah, you still can.
Wait.
Barely.
4, 6,
no,
8,
you can't.
9,
You need
9.
10.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, though. But even still, you're already knocking down your opponent a good peg here. And even a smoke screen in hand, I don't know if the Ahri is running it, but that could be enough to even just go ahead and get everything down enough to where you can just go ahead and conquer it. But still, it's so tough, because you're like, what does Ahri have in hand? It's like, there's so much digging that's been done, and still we're trying to figure out the best way to go ahead and win this match.
And they're tapping a whole lot of runes. It looks like a tasty Faithful with the recycling of a Calm rune, sending it into the star tip, thinking about just killing 2 of these units and then following that up with perhaps a Watcher. So going, yeah, because Watcher had 4, right? So 4. The Raven Bloom can't get any more than 2 since she's all tapped out. So 4, 2, and you had 6. So now just a Watchful Sentry. This Watcher looking pretty primed to take over that battlefield. Unfortunately, you don't get another turn because no Time Warp was deployed, of course. So you're only going to be going up to 7. But I say only, but that's pretty much game point, forcing Kaisa with 2 lonely cards in hand to have to take over not just one of these battlefields, but both. If you can't take care of both of these battlefields, that will be a GG 2-0 for Ahri. Does it look like Ahri has it in the bag, Silent?
Well, the only way Ahri, I think, is going to have it in the bag is if we don't have, like, what, a Darius and a smoke screen. But it looks like, oh, we might be going ahead and attacking in with a Thousand Tail here. There's still going to be 3 runes left, so you could try to take the top one and then use a spell to go ahead and destroy the other battlefield as well. But again, if there is that Defy there, oh, that cannot be defied. So that is going to be a big difference maker there as well.
Yeah, great play from Bamboopanda, taking down the Watcher. Now it's a whopping 7 going up to the 1 of the Yordle. That should be more than enough to conquer Targon's Peak, bringing him up to 7, tying things up. And now on the other side, forcing Ahri to have to conquer both battlefields on their follow-up turn. But find your center, just to kind of play something now that it's an action and now a showdown is activated. So Yordle gonna be hitting the bin. So it does get that conquer point. So up to 7, and now Kaisa just has 1 card in hand. This is Ahri's game, but I don't know. You can't really do too much. He played a Tasty. I think that was the second Tasty of game 2. I don't believe there was 1 Watcher, so you could have 1 Watcher. But if you play a Watcher, there's not going to be a follow-up accelerated unit, right? Because it's Calm and Mind. There's not too many options to play with. So I think this might be 1 more turn for Kaisa. The best you can do here is stop Kaisa from winning with this Watcher on Targon's Peak.
Yeah, and still the 3 runes at the ready for Kaisa is scary as well. So even if you are able to find an answer, it's going to be difficult. And you already see a Poro coming out in this case, and then everything else. And there's going to be a time warp to try to go ahead and buy another turn. That's going to at least make it to where you can get the Poro into battlefield. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, if there's a Watcher on the secondary turn, I think that does it, because Poro able to go into the star tip. Of course, there could be a foil plan with something as simple as a Void Seeker or a Hextech Ray. Does Kaisa have it? Her one single card to change the battle. It gets the 1 draw, so there wasn't anything. Gonna be tapping 8, I believe. That is indeed a Watcher, sending it into the Watcher. That is a 2-0 victory for Ahri. Very well played for PewQ. That was incredible. Well done, well done.